New reporting today from the Foreign Policy Group suggests that White House Counsel Don McGahn may have known in the early hours and days of the Trump presidency that Mike Flynn had broken the law. The White House turned over records this fall to special counsel Robert Mueller, revealing that in the very first days of the Trump presidency, Don McGahn researched federal law dealing both with lying to federal investigators and with violations of the Logan Act, a centuries-old federal law that prohibits private citizens from negotiating with foreign governments, according to 3 people with direct knowledge of the confidential government documents. The records that McGahn turned over to the special counsel, portions of which were read to this reporter, indicate he researched both statutes and warned Trump about Flynn's possible violations. NBC News has not verified this report, but joining us now is Mark Leibovich, chief national correspondent for the New York Times Magazine. Ken Delanian and Tom are still with us. Ken, let me start with you, because you and I have been on the air together through many conversations about the significance of Don McGahn. I think there was some reporting, I can't remember if it was yours or somewhere else, about him having some documents locked in a safe. This seems like it may have been the kind of thing that would have been in a safe if a White House counsel had one. But let me ask you about how central Don McGahn is, and if we know from our network's own reporting that what Bob Mueller is doing right now is constructing an exquisitely detailed timeline of everything that everyone did in that period from the moment Sally Yates warned Don McGahn that Mike Flynn could potentially be blackmailed by Russians to the moment that Mike Flynn was fired. This seems like it could be the kind of information or the kind of line of questioning that would get right at what the president knew, who told him, and when he knew.
Yes, and we absolutely do know that Mueller is honing in on that timeline, this 18-day period, because it appears to be crucial to the question of whether the president obstructed justice. And I find this foreign policy reporting fascinating. I don't know how crucial it is to the case. It depends. It depends on what. There's one theory that says that Donald Trump knew all along and dispatched Mike Flynn to talk to the Russian ambassador. Therefore, he knew that Mike Flynn wasn't telling the truth. Therefore, whatever Don McGahn got from Sally Yates, Donald Trump already knew that. So that's really not all that relevant. But in the event that Donald Trump didn't know what Mike Flynn was doing, it seems pretty clear that Don McGahn explained some of the ramifications to him pretty quickly. That was sort of obvious from Sally Yates' testimony to Congress, but this new reporting reinforces that because it shows that Don McGahn was actually researching the laws that Mike Flynn may have broken, including the Logan Act, which says, you're not supposed to negotiate with a foreign country if you're a private citizen, and including statutes involving lying to the FBI. And McGahn testified that he alerted the White House, top White House officials, as soon as Sally Yates talked to him about this. So it really does raise the question, again, the classic question, what did the president know and when did he know it, Nicole?
Mark Leibovich, you've covered White Houses, you've covered White House counsels. It's a very peculiar thing to do on your first day. The White House counsel often spends their first hours and days getting lists of fantastic people who would reshape the judiciary, and to the Trump White House's credit, they have also been able to do that. But to learn that it's possible that the incoming White House counsel spent his first days, and I don't know what a lawyer does. Do you Google the Logan Act? Do you Google prison term for lying to the FBI? I mean, I don't even know how Don McGahn would have gone about doing this if it's true. But the idea that they didn't know that Mike Flynn was trouble from day one is certainly non-operative.
Right. I would hope they wouldn't have to Google the Logan Act, but you never know. I mean, I do think you're right. I mean, I think what this gets to, first of all, there's a lot of layers of privilege here right off the bat. There's attorney-client privilege, there's White House counsel privilege, there's executive privilege, given that the president, can very much set his own course on these things. I think it's pretty clear from the reporting that the president knew a fair amount about Mike Flynn's background. And you would imagine at this point that based on the discussions with Sally Yates and probably other things, Don McGahn knew too. The question, though, I think this is going to be sort of where the rubber meets the road, especially if you're talking about an obstruction of justice part of this, is what part of this is illegal, and what part of this is just an unorthodox White House, a new president, again, trying to set a new set of rules. I mean, whether it's responsible or greatly irresponsible or politically stupid, I mean, that's obviously not a legal question. Or the other thing is, I mean, what else is there? And as Ken said, is this just part of a longer, very meticulous kind of timeline that Mueller will use to build a case that obviously this is a part of a bigger, part of a larger trouble, a larger puzzle of?